Hello, Keep Austin Agile. Hello, Austin. So thrilled to be here. So thrilled to be back in person. Before we get started, I just want us all to get grounded in why we're here. Oh, I got rid of my cheat sheet. So we're here to reconnect. We're here to re-energize, and we're here to re-engage. So first, we're going to start with reconnecting. And I'm a big believer in, if we're in person, we should use these fabulous bodies that we have that are just amazing. So I'd like everybody to stand up before we get too far. And I want you to look at your table, find a face that looks the least familiar, and say, hello. So I should hear some hellos. Share your name. And if you're online, if you're on Zoom, feel free to drop something in chat. Say hello. Awesome, awesome. We're going to steal from Melissa because we all learned something today. Beautiful, beautiful. Bring it back to center. Beautiful, lovely, lovely people. Okay, now let's get into the re-energize, which is my personal favorite. Okay? We're going to get a little weird here for a second, but this is also Keep Austin Weird. So we're going to get weird for a second, and I just want you to follow along. And if you are remote somewhere, I expect you to follow along too. The difference is I can't hold you accountable because I can't see you, but just follow along. I'm going to put the mic down. All you have to do is follow. Remember, I'm weird too. Okay, don't sit down. We have one more to go. One more to go. All right. So now we have some energy. We have some blood flowing. We've had some movement. We've made some noises. Now we need to re-engage. So I'm going to give you all permission to engage. So what does that mean? That means pause me at any moment. Ask a question. I love questions, comments, concerns, and beauty tips. If my colleague Parker Stevenson were here, he would say, lead with beauty tips. But please know, this is your permission to engage. Please be engaged. Stop me, ask questions, tell stories, be here present with me. So our first opportunity for engagement is the law of 2 feet. If this feels like it's going to be a little too much for you, please use your law of 2 feet, and do not worry. I will not be offended if anybody walks out those back doors. I won't draw attention to it. I won't ask you for your name. I won't come find you afterwards and be like, why did you leave? I'm not that kind of speaker, but please know that's our first form of engagement, is that if this doesn't feel like comfortable space for you, or you're worried that I might get really loud up here and you'd prefer not to be towards the front, maybe you want to be towards the back, use your law of 2 feet and move around. Also, 45 minutes, sometimes that's kind of long. And if you need to move, or if you need to just get to a wall and be like, man, I've been working from home for so long, I gotta do some wall squats. I just gotta move. Don't feel like you have to stay seated. Please know this is your creative space. This is for you for the next 45 minutes. And it's okay if it's weird in here because it's Austin. So we're welcome to be weird. So with that, go ahead and get comfy. Sit down. Thanks for being here. I'm Elisabeth White. I'm only going to stay here long enough in case anybody wants to connect with me on Twitter, or if you want to snag my email. If you're like, ooh, she seems like the kind of person who wants a lot of spam, you know what, that's okay. If that's what you're feeling today, send it to me. That's fine. But if you do have a burning question, or if you do want to follow up with me, I put this up here mostly for the email. The rest you can all read on your own time because I do make this content available. Real quickly about Cornerstone Agility, Miss Katie, I'm going to put you on the spot. Hi, Katie. Katie is also one of my colleagues, and she works at Cornerstone Agility. If any of this, whether it's our mission, our vision, our values, speaks to you or makes you curious or you want to hear more about it, you can come talk to me, hello, or you can talk to Miss Katie. And we didn't mean to, but we dressed very similar, so find the Cornerstone Agility blue-dressed people, and we're probably with Cornerstone Agility. Or if not, that's okay. Still say hello to that person. So again, back to reconnecting, re-energizing, and re-engaging. We're going to do another activity. I know, you're so excited. What is this activity? We're going to do a quick would you rather. It's very easy, and for those of you who are online, you'll have to drop it in chat because we won't be able to do the physical movement. But I'm going to ask you to do something, and I'm going to turn around so we're all talking same direction. You're going to see something pop up on the screen, and you're either going to want to rather this or you're going to want to rather that. And this room is big enough that we're going to say, if I like this, I'd rather this, I'm going to walk all the way over here because we're going to use our legs. Or, and we're going to do that because we're in person and we have the ability to do it. Or I'd rather this, and I'm going to walk over here. You can't be in the middle. You have to make a decision. So whichever one speaks to you. So go with your gut instinct. But we're going to move around the room a little bit. So let's go. Would you rather live on the beach, okay, that's over here, or a cabin in the woods? You're over here. Ready, set, go. 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 We're moving and we're using our legs. Being in person's awesome. All right. So, because it wouldn't be a session with Elisabeth White if I didn't do this, who over here, living on the beach, can tell me one reason why you want to live on the beach? Who wants to speak to me? You also get the mic. Hi, I'm coming back to you. Please lead with your name and allow us to say hello to you.
Thank you. My name is Zach Verghese. Hi, Zach. How are y'all doing? Thank you. A beach because of the sun and the waves.
Sun and the waves. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, over here. Cabin in the woods. My quiet folk. Coming over here. Coming over here. Remember, tell us who you are. Let us say hello.
I am Colin Turner.
Hi, Colin. Why the cabin?
Because sun, sand, and salt water are disgusting.
Yep. Yep, there it is, folks. There it is. All right. Well, here's why we do this. It's just, number one, we're back in person. We have the ability to utilize our space. But here's why I'm also doing this. Because we're here to talk about facilitation, and we're here to talk about conflict. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about virtual conflict, but everything we just did in the last 5 minutes are really, really easy ways to diffuse conflict. We're getting energy going, we're getting blood circulation. Everything we just did, how many of you are still thinking about the fact that you overslept this morning? Okay, how many of you are thinking, should have had that second cup of coffee? Right, we've already worked through a lot of what might have already been upstairs, getting us all muffle-puffled. I use very technical terms, by the way, but muffle-puffled upstairs. That's then causing this reaction and this need for some conflict. So that's why we do this stuff. And you can do a lot of this stuff virtually too, and we're going to get into that. But I just like to set the tone and set the stage of, in 5 minutes, we did some really easy, really lighthearted facilitation that can help, again, diffuse conflict. So thank you everyone for playing along. You can head back to your seats if you remember what they are, or grab a new one. Switch it up. Don't get lost on the journey. So while you guys are getting situated, let's talk about our agenda, because good facilitation always starts with an agenda. So I'm going to give you our purpose, and then we're going to talk about WIIFM radio, what's in it for me, and then we're going to get into context, because I've got Miss Katie in the room. One of her top strengths and strength finders is context, so I now know, always lead with context. Then we're going to talk about causes of virtual conflict. You all will get to participate. We're going to talk about 5 dysfunctions of a team, but why we care about 5 behaviors of cohesive teams. Then we'll talk about virtual working agreements, taking an empathetic approach, facilitation techniques, and then closing remarks is really just an opportunity for you all to ask me really hard questions or easy ones. I like easy ones too, but I'm prepared for your hard ones. So let's talk about our purpose. So we're going to discuss virtual conflict and triggers. This is important because that's our context setting. And then we're going to discover facilitation techniques that empower empathetic mediation. That's key. And then steer conversations toward healthy resolution. So if that's not why you're here, or if none of that sounds interesting, law of 2 feet, feel free. Walk away. That's okay. So what's in it for you all? So my goal is to leave you with a strategy of first identify the problem. Let's identify virtual conflict. Then let's know how to formulate a game plan. Let's be ready to facilitate. So if I have a game plan, I am ready and I am encouraged through engagement to address that. And then I want to know how I support my teams through it. Here's the thing. It should be up here, but it's not. You are not, as a facilitator, always going to be able to solve everybody's problems. Okay? Here's the thing. I tell my team this all the time. You got baggage? We've all got baggage. I have so much baggage. This bag probably weighs 50 pounds. That's so absurd. What's in here? Why is this so heavy? I don't know, but it's my baggage, and I take it everywhere with me. What I don't do is ask Katie to ever pick it up, because it's my baggage. I got to carry that with me. And so sometimes I'm always going to have a perspective or a feeling or a something, and there's nothing Katie can do about that. Sometimes I've just got to own that. So it should be up here as well. As far as strategy is also knowing when to let it go. So we're going to talk about that as well. So first, let's ground ourselves in some context. What is virtual conflict? So for right now, for the next 30-ish minutes, this is going to be our working definition of virtual conflict. So we're talking about 2 or more people that started or moved to a virtual platform, such as email, online, chat, video, teleconference, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. It's online, it's virtual, but we were having a conversation and it ultimately ended up in a virtual environment, and that conversation wasn't healthy and probably was negative. And we got there because maybe it's passive-aggressive behavior. Charlie is not here to defend himself on my team. I am still convinced in March of 2020, he stole a coffee mug of mine while fleeing a building. I have no evidence of it, but my passive-aggressive behavior is telling me on Slack I should send him memes of coffee mugs and hope that he gets what I'm talking about. Maybe it's messages that tend to be bolder in nature. So let's just own it. We're all friends here, at least for the next 30-ish minutes. Who gets a little spicy when we put something in an online chat room? I mean, I'll own it. I get spicy sometimes. Not one other of you in this room ever gets a little spicy if you don't have to say it to somebody's face. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. We can be super polished, we can be super professional, and then somebody hits that button. There's that little trigger. Or maybe they like to poke it, just poke, 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 poke. And then you're like, well, there's nothing else for me to do other than be bold online. Then we also have this one. This is a favorite one. Anybody here in human resources or employee experience? Anybody in the people department? Whew, thank goodness, okay. Those of us who maybe have some passive-aggressive tendencies, or maybe we get a little bold in a chat room, we forget that there are policies in place that protect ourselves and protect our colleagues. And we just, whoop, flush that one out for a hot second, and before we know it, we're probably saying things that are in violation of that policy. But in the moment, it felt so good to get it off my chest. Maybe it's just that chats were miscommunicated or misunderstood. Maybe what I wanted to say is, Katie, I'm going to be late. Maybe that's what I wanted to say. But maybe Katie interpreted that as, well, good morning to you too. Like, I'm not the one that overslept. Why do I have to be in trouble because you're going to be late? Like, again, something as simple as a miscommunication can lead to this online conflict. But here's the key piece here. Body language, facial expressions, cues that normally help us understand, is this actually conflict? Are we actually having an issue? We lose all of that online. And the reality is most of us have been working the last 2.5 years in this environment where really, really important human things that help us work through conflict are not available to us. So this is the key piece here, is that we have to, as facilitators, read the virtual room and remember we're not seeing body language, we're not probably getting the right tone, we're missing really natural human cues. So as facilitators, we've got to try to fill that gap. So that's what we're talking about with this virtual conflict stuff. Now let's talk about some causes, different remote work styles and habits. This one's a pet peeve of mine with my team. I'm airing all of our dirty laundry, Katie, because why not? I am the early riser. I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm ready to crush the day with the sun. When the sun's up, I'm up. That's who I am. My whole team doesn't work that way. Sometimes there's a 2-hour delay or a 4-hour delay between when I'm ready to go crush it in the universe and the rest of the team is ready to go crush it in the universe. That can cause some issues. It's just natural. Like, I'm ready to go, and I'm like, where's everybody at? Let's start this marathon of ours. And I'm like, tick-tock, tick-tock, I'm still alone here. I'm still all alone. Other thing is just interpersonal and communication style clashes. I am a very high energy, very passionate person. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about my life. I'm passionate about my dogs. I'm obsessed with my dogs, actually. And there are other people who are like, I really like cats. And I respect you, cat people. I really do. I don't understand you. But I respect you. And that in itself, you know, like, maybe I want a dog meme and not a cat meme. Why can't we be obsessed over dog videos instead of cat videos? Although at this point, I think we're obsessed about any kind of video, really. Work pace and schedule conflicts. Some of us want to work a 10-hour day. Some of us want to work a 6-hour day. Some people like a lunch break. Some people don't. Some people need to just get offline at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock because they are fried. They just need to let their brain take a moment. So there could just be some differences in schedule. Technology gaps. Isn't that a favorite one? We had some technology issues today, which I thought were handled beautifully. But like, technology can be a trigger. Like, if this HDMI cable goes out again and I lose my slides, you might see me have a little bit of a reaction up here. We're going to get through it together, but I'm going to have a little bit of a reaction. Old grudges. This is the coffee mug, Charlie. This is the coffee mug. Where I'm like, you know what? We haven't talked about the coffee mug since March of 2020. But today, in 2022, I am ready to talk about it. And not in a good way. What else? Other examples. Anything else come to mind? Anything else trigger anybody? Anything you've seen triggered? Yeah. No video. And I'm sorry, your name, sir? Nick? Hi. Welcome. Yes, the no video. Or like having it on and then turning it off and then being like, what happened to you? Are you safe? Is there a burglar in your home? I don't know. You didn't tell me. You were there and then you were gone. Or maybe, here's my favorite. At least upload a photo for me. Like, give me something to look at. Don't make me just read your name, Nick. Like, I like to read your white name and your black background, but like, give me something to look at. And if you don't want to give me a picture of you, maybe a picture of your dog or your cat or the hamster. Like, give me something to look at. But yes, that can be a trigger too. So these are all opportunities for virtual conflict to show up in your life. Yikes. It's a lot. There's a lot here. So why do we care about this? Why is this such an issue to care about? It's right here, my friends. Trust. If we have a breakdown in online communication, it will ultimately lead to an absence of trust. So those of you who don't know 5 dysfunctions of a team, I would certainly spend some time there because it has multi-purposes. This session today has absolutely nothing to do with 5 dysfunctions of a team, but it is a foundation when it comes to facilitation. So if we don't have trust, then we have a fear of conflict, or we have engagement in unhealthy conflict. If that happens, we no longer care about commitment, because I've lost sight of why I want to work with you, why I want to commit with you, why I want to do stuff with you. And then total avoidance of accountability. That one's near and dear to me. Now we're no longer saying, I own it, I'm going to move forward, I'm going to action something. Instead, I'm going to go into the blame game and look for some excuses. And then the results. We no longer care about the value. That's what's at risk here when we don't address and facilitate through virtual conflict. And it all stems from our foundational layer of trust is jeopardized when we don't take a look at virtual conflict. So hopefully you all are here today because you are ready, because you have the permission to engage. Say it with me now. I have the permission to engage. Let's do it again. I have the permission to engage. Yes. That you are not going to shy away from helping your peers, your colleagues, your clients, your coachees, maybe your family, through virtual conflict. Because if we lose this foundation of trust, everything is at cost. Everything is jeopardized. And this is so sacred. So we can't shy away from virtual conflict. We cannot be afraid of a hard conversation because there's too much at stake. We can't lose sight of our results and our value. So if we deal with virtual conflict, we keep this foundation of trust. And here's what it looks like, folks. It's a very technical demonstration. Watch closely. If I can deal with virtual conflict, I have to show up and be the first. And so I'm going to say, today is Wednesday, I am showing up as the best version of myself. So I put my best foot forward, that's my right foot, and I am also going to assume, Katie, stand up for me. Katie also today on Wednesday stepped with her best foot forward, and now we're going to meet in the middle because we're both working to be the best versions of ourselves. I trust myself to take this first step. I trust Katie to take that first step. Beautiful, elegant, my dear. Thank you. And that's why we care about this. Someone has to engage first. Someone has to say, best foot forward. Oops, not my best foot forward. Try it again. Best foot forward. I'm the one leading with trust. I trust my team. I trust myself. Best foot forward. That is the power of a facilitator dealing with virtual conflict. You have to pave the way. You have to be willing to demonstrate what getting back to a foundation of trust looks like. And that means I showed up and put my best foot forward, and I am not going to assume, I am going to believe, and I am going to trust that my team or my colleague or my boss or my boss's boss showed up and they too brought their best version of themselves to work. You have to lead with the trust. And guess what? Sometimes that's really hard. Like Charlie, he's not here right now. He can't defend himself with that coffee cup. But I'm going to take the first step forward to say, there's probably a really good reason why he took that coffee cup. And it probably wasn't theft. But I believe Charlie. Charlie is awesome. So I'm taking the first step forward to say, if I am the best version of myself, I have to trust that Charlie had good intentions. Foundation of trust starts with a foundation of a facilitator who will take that first step. Can I get a whoop whoop? That was weak. Let's do it again. Whoop whoop. We're getting better. We're getting better. All right, so now let's talk about how. How do we do this? I'm a facilitator. How in the hey diddly day am I going to pull all this off? How do I lead with trust? How do I make this happen? How do I work through the conflict? How do I show people that we don't want to lose our foundation of trust? It's not worth the risk. How am I going to do this? Virtual working agreements is a wonderful place to start. So let's walk through these. Honesty about schedules, availability, and work styles. So as the facilitator, let's bring people together and say, hey, just like Melissa said, if I am a 10 a.m., crush it, awesome. Then 6 a.m. Elisabeth White needs to come up with something to fulfill her time, bring joy into the workplace until we're ready to crush it at 10 a.m. But we need to be respectful of when are we going to come together? When are we going to collaborate? When are we actually all available? If some of us walk our dogs at 11:15 every day, then let's not book something from 11:15 to noon, and let's respect it. But we have to first be honest about it and be willing to be visible about it and just own who we are, own when we're at our best. And that's really, really critical. So we have to just not just be honest about it, but visualize it. From there, identify quiet hours. When are we going to leave each other alone? And then don't go bug each other. Don't do it. My team tells me all the time, one more message at 7 a.m. One more time. Do it. Do it. And let me show you what that virtual conflict is going to look like. So I don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because I don't want to lose my foundation of trust. So what are your quiet hours? When are we not going to talk to each other? When are we going to decompress? When are we going to heal? When are we going to let our minds take a break, take a rest, and do some healing? Because that's important. And it should be every day. There should be quiet hours every day. Then we need consensus on no-fly zones. So for any of you who've seen any of my other facilitation talks, no-fly zones are very important to me. No-fly zones are literally that. Don't fly over there. Just don't. Don't do it. So for your team or for whoever it is that you're collaborating with on a regular basis, what is a no-fly zone? Because we had elections yesterday, I'm going to pick on politics just because it's fresh. But like, if politics is a hot topic, if politics leads to virtual conflict, don't talk about it. Take it offline, far, far away from your virtual workplace. Have it out, maybe in a boxing ring or a bar or whatever. But keep it out of your virtual working environment because it's going to be it's going to be destructive, and it's not constructive. It's going to tear people down. What are other no-fly zones? We previously had a team member who loved cats and didn't like my attitude about cats. And I needed to know that. That was a no-fly zone. So no more picking on cats. Like, Elisabeth, respect the cat. Maybe don't understand the cat, but respect the cat. But like, it can be little things like that, but like triggers. We're talking about what are those topics? What are those conversational pieces that should be no-fly zones? It is not safe in the workplace to talk about that. And you guys have to decide that for yourselves. Now, if we go back to human resources and employee experience and the people, they might already have some no-fly zones. So make sure you know those and you honor and respect those because you don't want to be in a violation of those policies. Preferred communication styles and channels. I'm going to own it right here, right now. I still love a phone call. I don't actually like texting. I'm a broken millennial. I'm a grandma millennial. I don't like texting. Call me. Please call me. Please don't put something important in a text. But if I don't communicate that and I keep getting text messages that are triggering me, what am I going to do? I'm going to go be bold. I'm going to go into Slack and I'm going to be like, I'm going to meme the hell out of all of you and tell you all of my emotions. So I have to tell people, hey, if it's important, call me. Please call me. All right, next. Trackability to action items with action takers and timelines. I'm going to pause here. As a facilitator, do this all the time, not just in conflict. If we make a decision, write it down, and then what's the action related to that decision, and then who's taking the action, and what's our timeline for that. Same thing with virtual conflict. If we say, hey, we're going to publish no-fly zones, where are we going to publish them? Who's going to publish them? When are we going to start adhering to them? But as the facilitator, sometimes you've got to take ownership and make sure that things are going to happen. So if you all determine on an action item and you say, this is how we're going to be, this is our working agreements, this is how we're moving forward, you as the facilitator need to own that, document it, and make sure that it's traceable and trackable and we're being held accountable to it. We also need to know what are our escalation paths. So this is back to where I said, facilitators, you can't own everything. Quit picking up the baggage of other people. It's too heavy, and you got your own load. And none of us in this room are Sherpas. Unless you are, please come talk to me. I want to know what that life is all about. But most of us are not Sherpas. Like, don't try to carry the baggage of other people. So when you are in a situation where you can't help the team, it's just too, I'm going to use the word, it's a harsh word, but if it's too toxic, what's your escalation path? And make sure it's documented and make sure everybody's agreed upon it, because what you don't want to do is go to Papa Bear Parker and say, Mr. Stevenson, you'll never know, you'll never guess what Katie did at Keep Austin Agile. No, that's not fair to Katie, because Katie doesn't know that's my escalation path. I need to make sure she knows. If I am so wounded, or if our relationship is so wounded and our foundation of trust is gone, we need to have agreed upon and documented escalation paths, so when we can't get past the situation, we all know what that looks like. This is not the time to be passive aggressive. Because I know there's some of you in the room, you're my people, so I know who you are. We'll be quiet about it. We'll be like, oh, this is getting hot. It's getting hot. I'm gonna go escalate it, and I'm not even gonna tell anybody that I did it. That's not facilitation, and that's not resolution. So make sure escalation paths are agreed upon and documented, and that everybody knows them. Team changes, make sure they're aware. Different relationship, new boss, make people aware. Don't assume, make people aware. All right, take an empathetic approach. This one's near and dear to me, but that's because empathy is in my top 5 of my strengths. And I really do believe that if we are leading with our best foot and saying, I'm going to show up as the best version of myself, and I believe that everybody else is going to show up best version of themselves, then I've got to be able to listen and reflect and hear other people. So first, be the change. We already talked about this one, but how do you want to be treated? Do you want to be treated with respect? Do you want to be approached with integrity? How do you want to be treated? And say, hey, Elisabeth, you're dealing with some conflict. As your facilitator, how can I help you? Oh, well, let me tell you about that. Let me tell you what would make me feel good. If you have to role play it with yourself, but know what being the change is going to look like. Next, listen by sipping your coffee or tea, for those of you like Katie who drink tea. Take a breath. Let somebody else talk and listen. And I'm telling you, I don't have a coffee mug. Normally I do this, is kind of weird. So we're going to use this as my make-believe coffee mug. But sometimes just buys just enough time to defuse a situation. It only takes 5 seconds. That's how long the brain can change the way it's thinking. You can be so angry, and in 5 seconds, your brain can totally change your own mind. All it takes is one breath. Let's do it together. Pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. And we're back in the game. We've got a clear head. So sometimes all you need to do is sip your coffee and lead. Be the change. As the facilitator, be the first one to drink coffee. Be the first one to say, hey, team, I understand we're dealing with some issues today. We're going to talk about those issues. So I want Nick, I want you to talk first. You tell me, how are you feeling? And while you're talking, I'm just sipping. Create some space. Don't let issues fester, grow, or prolong. It is 2022, and I'm still mad about a coffee mug. That is not okay. I probably need some help at this point. But don't let them fester. If you see it, do something, say something. And again, if it feels like it's out of your control, if it's too big of an issue, then escalate it, following our documented and agreed upon escalation paths. Conduct check-ins. If we get through conflict, don't just assume it's gone, because stuff comes back. Like, we're humans. We can't help but just let it come back. So what are you going to do? You're going to check in. You're going to be like, hey, Katie, I know we were working through some stuff. How you doing? You doing okay? You feeling good about it? Yeah? Awesome. Thanks, Katie. And then encourage icebreakers and team builders, which is why we started the way we did today. Break it up. Break up the energy. Break up the thought process. Get people thinking about something different. Remind people to have fun in the workplace. Remind people that we're here to build a foundation of trust, and that it's important that we have that opportunity to reconnect and get back to we're a results-oriented group, we're a results-oriented team. And make sure that we're building in some time. It can be less than 5 minutes. Again, we did a whole bunch this morning when we kicked off. It doesn't take long. It just breaks up the thought process and reminds us why we're here, why we care, why we want to work through conflict, because we never want to compromise on our foundation of trust. Couple of facilitation techniques. We did this one today. We started with context. If we lack context, I promise you, there is someone in your audience whose context is critical. It's in their top strengths, and it's how they think, and it's how they analyze, it's how they process, it's how they show up prepared. If you are not leading with context, folks, as facilitators, you're doing it wrong. You have to lead with context, because chances are 50% of the people that you're engaging with need this to pay attention and to follow along. If you deny them that, you've just created conflict, and you didn't even mean to. So you have to start with context. Also, set the tone. I'm a jovial person. It's mostly because I'm actually an introvert and play an extrovert on TV. My way of breaking that up is funny haha. Here's the best part about that. I spoke in Malta. Those of you who don't know where Malta is, teeny tiny rock in the middle of the Mediterranean. Magical place. Everyone should go. I am not funny there. Nothing I do, nothing I say is funny there. And let me tell you, most awkward presentation I've ever given in my life, because I have to lead with humor. That's how I set my tone. That's how I can facilitate. That's how I can handle criticism. That's how I can receive feedback. Like, I have to make it funny haha, or else the introvert inside of me is like, find the corner, sit down, it's scary. But the way I work through it is through comedy. And so set the tone. Like, understand your people. If we need a little funny haha, let's have a little funny haha. If we're deep philosophical people, let's start with a quote and then let's analyze it. But like, set your tone. Know your audience and set your tone, and really like be willing to stay there. Be willing to respect the fact that to make sure we don't compromise or sacrifice our trust, that we're setting our tone. So here's some closing remarks, and then we do have time for questions. Yes, I'm being told we do. So again, those of you who like to take pictures, this to me is, this is the one. This is the one. Take this one home with you. If you took other photos, that's fine too, but this one to me is the most important. Embody the attitude you want to experience. If I showed up here as your session leader and I was like, life sucks, folks. Conflict is inevitable. I wish you the best. Probably not the attitude any of you are looking for, and you would be real quick to use the law of 2 feet and get the hell out of here. So know the attitude and embody it. Make sure you're aware of that. And again, facilitators, people are looking at you. They're watching you. They're looking for you to take the lead. They're looking for you to help guide. If your attitude is negative, trust me, that's going to have a trickle effect. It's going to get real negative real quick. So know the attitude and then embody it. Just like we're taking a step. Best version of myself today, best attitude of the day. Next, don't be afraid to address virtual conflict. Same thing, facilitators, people are watching you. If you're like, oh, that was not an appropriate political meme on election day, I'm gonna let it go, let that ride. No, don't, because then it's gonna fester, and then it's gonna be a thing, and then before you know it, like, we're ready to go full-blown virtual LARPing swords at each other. I'm telling you, those cameras go off, you don't know what people are doing sometimes. And I'm like, somebody wears like karate chop. I'm throwing stars at you. Like, you just don't know. And so You have to be willing to, ooh, look at that. Know your no-fly zones. I'm going to raise of hands. Who, as of right now, with your teams or your colleagues or the people you work with the most, how many of you know your no-fly zones right now? That's pretty light. It's pretty light. So if you're going to do one thing tomorrow, what are you going to go do? You're going to find them, and we're going to avoid them. No-fly zones. Be careful, and then respect them. Don't let somebody be like, grenade, and just see what happens. Go have a conversation. Be like, hey, that's a no-fly zone. Can you delete that? Because it's not worth jeopardizing our trust over it. And then we're going to provide an empathetic approach. People. We are people in the workplace. Here's why this is important, and so important to me. Artificial intelligence is like a thing now. Even at Cornerstone Agility, we have robots that help us with stuff. And eventually, we're gonna be in a situation where people being people, humans doing human things, people using our legs, running around, making weird noises, that's gonna change. Artificial intelligence is here. And this people connection, it's not gonna be here forever. We've taken advantage of it for too long. There's no reason why we can't take an empathetic approach and say, Adrian, I know empathy is not your number one strength, but how are you today? Yeah, you're doing good. Okay. Bridget, you're sitting next to her. You doing good today? Fabulous. Like, that's it. That's it. Just check in. Be like, hey, we're humans. Like, I was so terrified to try to be here today. This is my first, I used to speak a lot. Those of you who've seen me, I used to speak a lot. And I kind of got into like a rhythm and a routine. And then I didn't for 2.5 years. And since then I've had an ankle injury that was super nasty. And I now used to wear the coolest high-heeled sneakers, high-heeled sneakers. They were so amazing. As if I need to be any taller, I know. But it gave me that like confidence to be here. Now I'm in these super sexy grandma shoes. But I can do stuff like this now. So I'm not upset about this, but like, I need a little empathy. Like, I'm waiting for somebody to come up to me like, those don't look like your old sneakers. I'm gonna be like, yeah, they don't. These are orthotic. These are supportive. I'm not gonna fall in these. But have some empathy for me. Know that maybe I'm wearing grandma shoes for a really good reason. Empathy, folks. So, so important. I didn't leave you guys much time. It's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Yes. Let me bring you the mic. And your name. Your name. Hi, Deanne.
If you truly trusted Charlie, wouldn't you believe that he did not take the mug instead of believing that he took it for good intentions? How do you resolve this?
Powerful question. Powerful question. Oh, I'll go this way. So here's the thing. Charlie trusts me explicitly, and I had this ankle injury right before the world shut down. He was worried I wasn't going to make it back to the building to get my coffee mug and knew how important it was to me, and so he took it. He then lost it. But in the moment, he had all the best intentions. It took me a year to ask him what happened. And the reality is, I had already moved on from the coffee mug. At that point, I was like, it's probably a petri dish of disease. Like, who knows? And I probably wouldn't have wanted it back. But in the moment, he wanted to do right by me and make sure I had my coffee mug because he knew that at the time, I wasn't very mobile. But wonderful question. Don't wait a year. That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Jolly. Jolly. Hello, everybody. Okay, so the follow-up question of that, what did you think? Was that an easy question or a tough one? Were you ready for it?
I was ready. I think on Charlie a lot. Yes. Hang on. Let me bring this to you. Don't forget your name.
Thank you. Wayne. Hi, everyone. I wrote this down. Sorry if it's a stupid question, but how do I deal with being empathetic and at the same time having to deal with a documented escalation path, which I know may cost someone's job?
So that's the tough stuff. So in that type of a situation, which let me repeat that a little bit, we're trying to be empathetic, but we're also in a situation of escalation and somebody's job might be on the line. Here's what I'm going to say. In my 15 years, I think that's what it says, 15 years of experience, I've only come across 2 professionals with actual malicious intent, where they were being virtually difficult, in-person difficult, or otherwise, with the intent to be malicious. Those of you who know, I've been in consulting for a long time. I've worked with organizations that are 30,000 plus people. 2 people in 15 years means that there's not a lot of people out there who are working through some sort of malicious activity in the workplace. So as the facilitator, I'm going to dig deep. I might use 5 whys and say, hey, help me understand. How did we get here? Okay, it was the political meme. Why did that trigger us? Oh, it's because it came from Katie. Oh, we didn't think Katie talked about politics in the workplace. Why did Katie want to talk about politics in the workplace? Could we maybe go have a conversation with Katie, or could I have it on your behalf? But sometimes we have to dig deep and see what's really at the root of it, because oftentimes people are wrongfully escalated and put into a position where their job might be on the line because nobody took the time to unravel the situation. So as a facilitator, you can be a neutral party and say, hey, how can I help you through this? We got into a bad spot. Let me see if I can unravel it. Because again, you don't need to pick up that baggage and carry it. It can get escalated. And whatever the result is going to be the result. But there's nothing that prevents you from trying to be empathetic and see if you can do some root cause. Did you have a question over here? You're just agreeing? Yeah, can I get a high five? Gosh, good energy from you. Yes.
Passive aggressive people where where they think that they know about everything, but you're trying to tell them as a feedback and trying to be open about it and say, hey, I'm having this issue or I'm having this problem, but they think it as, they basically minimize it and they say, oh, there is no problem. How do you deal with those type of situations?
I was going to add this slide in and I didn't get it in time, so I'll pick on 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. Those who are passive aggressive, we have to ask them why they're okay with a behavior that's jeopardizing our foundation of trust. Also, passive aggressive people don't always know that they're being passive aggressive. It's become so a part of who they are that sometimes they need a reminder. And I always say, have the reminder come from a facilitator, a neutral party, versus someone who might trigger further passive aggressive behavior. But here's the other one. Here's what's not here. So just pretend with me for a moment. Anybody in the room ever heard of accountability ladder? Bruce Gordon. Okay, your other piece of homework. First, for all of you who don't know your no-fly zones, you're going to go find those and you're going to document them and you're going to avoid them. Then you're going to go to YouTube and you're going to watch Bruce Gordon's take on accountability ladder. There's a lot of riffs off of it. Go to the source. You're going back in time a bit. Not the greatest video quality, hashtag worth it, but watch the video on accountability ladder, because here's the other thing as a facilitator that you've got to watch for. The accountability ladder is an 8-rung ladder starting at the bottom all the way up to the top. And accountable people and people who hold ourselves accountable, we want to live at the top of the ladder. This is where accountability lives. But at the bottom of the ladder is denial, blame, excuses, personal favorite of mine, wait and hope for someone else to solve my problem. Those are the 4 bottom rungs. Passive aggressive people oftentimes are living either in denial, blame, excuses, or waiting and hoping. as a facilitator, don't jeopardize trust and say, hey, Katie, I'm just going to keep picking on you. It's because it's the blue. I'm just like, mwah, mwah. Hey, I'm a little worried about the blame because you just blamed Adrian, and the reason we were late today was because of me. So I'm a little worried about that. Help me understand. Where's that blame coming from? Sometimes you, as the facilitator, need to have the courage, just like Melissa Boggs talked about today, to address the situation in the room. But you, again, are coming from a place of protecting the team. You are coming from a place of keeping things neutral. You are coming from a place of trying to avoid unhealthy conflict. So have the courage to do so. But just know, like, if we're living in denial, excuses, blame, and waiting and hoping for someone else to solve our problems, we are never going to get to accountability. And sometimes the facilitator needs to bring awareness to that. You have a question, and then we have to end. Your name.
This is AJ.
Hi, AJ.
It's about 5 dysfunctions of a team. Is this because inattention to results? Okay. It is because not all team members have visibility to the results. And if so, what results are we talking?
So we're talking about up at the tippy top, focusing on achieving results together. What if the team doesn't know what we're trying to achieve? We need to go find out together. If we don't know what those are, then we're never going to care about a foundation of trust. So if you or your teammates feel like you don't know what it is you're trying to achieve, we need to go have that conversation. At Cornerstone Agility, I always tell people, we want to be the best. If you need one thing to hold on to, we want to be the best at what we do. Sometimes that's public speaking, sometimes that's coaching, sometimes that's consulting, sometimes that's cooking. But like, we as a team want to be the best at what we do. And I know that my team is so grounded in that anytime we're dealing with conflict, virtual or otherwise, we've got a North Star that we can point to and get ourselves grounded. If you don't have that, that's your third piece of homework. What is the R? What is your value? What's your motivator? What gets you out of bed on a Monday? What gets you out of bed on a Friday even? What gets you online, turning your camera on, being present, being ready to put your first or best foot forward, respecting and trusting your team to do the same? What is it? If we don't know what it is, we need to go find it and go bring the people together that are needed to help you with that. So if we're lacking that from leadership, if we're lacking that from product, if we're lacking that from services, if we're lacking that from a vendor or otherwise, whoever helps set that, go find it. And as a facilitator, have the courage to engage. You have permission to engage. Help people find it. If people don't know the R, be ready to go on a journey. Use your feet or your virtual feet and help them find it.